Hello, and thank you to everyone that is joining us for our Love and Relationship series. My name is Tamika Sally.
And I'm Travis Sally.
And we're here to get started on our first week where we're going to talk about how we met and our love stories and how it all began. This series is sponsored by the Women of Destiny from Bible Way Ministries International here in Atlanta, Georgia. And we are joined here with some other couples, which we consider our co-hosts. And I'm going to allow them to introduce themselves now. So first up, we have Danny and Latanya. You guys, go ahead and introduce yourselves.
I'm Latanya Wade.
I'm Danny Wade.
And we're in Atlanta, Georgia. And we've been married for 12 years. And we've got 2 kids, an 8-year-old daughter and a 2-year-old son.
Glad to be here. Thank you.
No problem.
Thank you.
And next we have the Wilkersons. You want to go ahead and introduce yourselves?
Well, sure. Well, I'm Michael Wilkerson.
And I'm Cashmere Wilkerson.
And we are located in Dayton, Ohio. We've been married now for 8 years. We have 2 children, and yeah, that's it for now. In our meantime, we do social media here and there. We are on all social media platforms as the Mike Wilk, and so we do like modern, temporary gospel skits and Testimony Tuesdays, Petty Daddy episodes, and all kinds of things to make you giggle throughout your week.
Great.
Awesome.
And then we have Pat and Sarai. You want to go ahead and introduce yourselves? I just said your names.
Hi, my name is Sarai. This is Patrick. Well, you can say your name. I'm originally from Costa Rica, but live in Houston. We have been married for 7 years, and we have a almost 2-year-old, Nyla. And I'm a realtor here in Houston. Rough Realty is my page. If you guys want to move over here, we always have for you guys. And we're happy to be here and share a little bit about our story.
Great.
Awesome.
Oh, you were going to go ahead. I'm not going to cut you off.
Well, so we are the owners of Blazing Cajun Turkey Wings. It's a food truck here in Atlanta, Georgia. And we are at Blazing Turkey, Blazin Turkey, on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And you can find us at www.blazingturkey.com. We do the deep fried turkey wing, shrimp po' boys, deep fried turkeys during the holidays, red beans and rice. And
Everything I just said, yes.
But that's what we also do. I'm an HR director by day, but a food truck owner by passion.
Yes. And so I guess we should say how long we've been married. So Mika, Travis, we reside here in Atlanta, but we're both from South Carolina. We have been married for 9 years. We'll be 10 this year in September. So yeah, I think you gave everything else. I'm excited about this conversation in general because typically in February, it's Valentine's Day. So people think about Valentine's Day in February. We also have Black History Month in February. So I feel like we're kind of meshing the two because we have all of this. We're celebrating Black history with all of the Black couples here. And we're also talking about love. So I think we've covered both of them in this session. So I'm really excited about getting started with this conversation. So starting with the most basic of questions, I'm going to throw out there is how did you meet? Who do you think we should call them first? Oh my goodness.
I know about 2 of them. So Michael and Cashmere, you're up.
We got the luck of the draw. You want to go or you me go?
You tell us, Betty.
Okay. Well, we actually met very, very young. So we technically, and even all the way back in high school, we ran in like different circles. So we knew of each other here and there from doing different sports in 2 different high schools, but we always ran in a similar circle, so we kind of knew of each other. But we technically got closer in college. And when we actually officially met, we didn't really care for each other, to be honest. we did not. We were like arch nemesis. We just didn't get along. We didn't get along at all. And there was no like bad thing. It just we were two very strong personalities, very strong headed, very strong minded. But I think that's, as you can imagine, obviously years later, it brought us together. It was like a magnet because we constantly kept coming back to each other over different ways of thinking, how we were influencing our friends and people around us. So that's technically, we met in college, but we had been running around for a few years before that.
That's cool. Very cool.
Kashmir, do you agree with that?
I do.
We gotta make sure and confirm. We need co-signers for all these stories. We need
There was some
co-signers.
challenges. But it all worked out for the good.
Good. Awesome, awesome.
Excellent. So Sarai and Pat, tell us, how did you meet?
Perfect. So I would love to tell this story times. So Sarai said that she's from Costa Rica, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, me, I had a love for the Spanish language. I had a great teacher in high school. And for some reason, I was just gravitated to high school Spanish. I took 2 years of it. I did a really great job at that. So much so that I wanted to excel in that more when I got to undergrad. And so when I got to undergrad, I started taking more Spanish classes, but, I had a hard time trying to connect it. And, back then, when I was in undergrad, I say back then, because it was back then, when social media was just starting. So I'm gonna say some names. Y'all gonna know what I'm talking about. MySpace,
Black
Planet. And we actually linked up on this social media site called High Five. And so that was more so like international. It was more so like, I guess maybe internationally based. And she'll tell you, she added me on the platform.
There we go.
But the craziest thing is how we met, how she knew about me and why she added me was because my school, which is a private religious school, some organization from my school went to her church, and she remembered the organization, like the school where the organization comes from, and she says, "Oh, look at that young man right there with so much potential.
Oh my goodness.
And let me just go ahead and add him." Yes. Hello.
Oh, he cute.
And so that's initially how we met each other. And we were kind of like cyber new age pen pals.
Okay,
Okay.
cool. All right, Danny.
Hold on 1 second.
Oh,
Now,
Well, it's interesting. Our story is somewhat, for me,
well, give me just a second, because I think Travis
I
is
got
about
a
to ask
question
a
about
question.
Pat and
oh
Sarai.
yeah,
So y'all met online, but when did y'all meet in person?
In Costa Rica.
In Costa Rica. So I had, as part of the Spanish curriculum, I had studied abroad. So, yeah, and as a part of that, I received a major in Spanish, Spanish speaking language, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I just had this bug. I wanted to travel. I wanted to go. And that was like a gap year. So we were already familiar with it. We spent like a whole school year, 9 months in Argentina. And so we were ready to travel. And I told her, like, hey, I'm going to go there. She didn't believe me.
I didn't believe you.
She's like, "Oh, no, you're not going to come. Not going to come." So I got the team together. And I'm not even talking about just like the whole team, because, when it's time to put that money down,
Oh, yeah.
you already
And
know.
this get real small.
Yeah. My two guys that I went to Argentina with, they committed to it. They said, "Hey, here's my money. Take my money now. Let's get this done, Pat." And then we went. And so in 2010, for her like almost like her sister's or great friend's birthday party, we went.
Yeah, and we added each other. Well, I added him on, that was 2005. So you guys have an idea of the timeline. Like 2005, and we met up to 2010 face to face.
Good
Oh,
point.
wow.
Once he got there, and we had like that like chemistry, since we have been talking like probably like a year before that, like more often.
Uh-huh.
And after that is when we started dating, like until 2010.
Fireworks, slow motion.
Nice. Aww.
It's so crazy.
All the good stuff.
Wonderful. That's a great story. I know bits and pieces of your story, but I didn't know all of the pieces. So that's pretty cool to know. Pretty cool.
Cool. Andy, you're up.
So very similar to Sarai and Pat. We met online too. We actually met on Yahoo Personal, and at the time I wasn't really looking for a relationship. I was looking for a house.
That's what he said.
Uh-huh.
How you looking for a house on Yahoo Personals, Daddy?
Yahoo Personal, yes.
They don't have house listings on Yahoo
Exactly.
Personals.
That's what I said.
Travis knows I'm very, very particular. I didn't want
Ain't
certain
no
people.
houses on Yahoo Personal.
Oh yeah, well, I did do a search for realtors. I did do a search for realtors. It is interesting. Yahoo Personal is now Match.com,
Yeah.
but we met online, and we communicated for about 2 weeks before we actually met in person. We met at Chili's on her mom's birthday in 2006, and when I met her, there was this voice. The Holy Spirit was like, "This is your wife." And I know Travis knows the story. At first she was like, "Let's just keep it professional." She was a realtor, and she was encouraging me to date other people and see other things. I'm like, okay, this is kind of weird, but I did. I went out on other dates and other things, but all I could do was think about her, and we were looking at houses, and we saw this house, and she was like, "Oh, I could live here." And I was like, "Okay, that's the house for us," And then again, we just kind of kept it professional, and then I put a bid on the house, and she said, "I got some good news. We can go to dinner." I said, "Okay." And she said, I got 2 hands here, pick one. And I said, "Okay." I picked a hand, and it said that they had accepted our offer on the house. So I'm excited. I'm happy. I'm great. I forgot about the other hand, She was like, "There's another hand here." And I opened it, and it said we could start dating. So that's kind of how we met. But I'll let her tell her side of it.
He got most of the story right. The first part where we disagree about why he was actually on Yahoo Personal. That's my only
was on there.
But if you know, the
disagreement.
14D says love is a house.
His love is a house.
Really?
And she got the key.
Yeah.
But the rest of the story is correct. It's accurate.
Okay. Well, she was smart, because either way, she want to make sure that deal closed first. We not gonna date right now.
Yes.
Make sure I get this commission first, then we can talk about some dating.
Right.
Sarai, you understand, right?
Of course.
Ain't nobody got time to be messing around talking about dating. No, we trying to close on this
Oh, let me
house.
get my money.
Yeah.
Let me get my commission check first,
Thank you.
then we can talk about some dating.
Yeah.
That's right.
That's what I'm thinking.
So
Yeah.
now, after hearing 3 relationship stories, our story is very similar to everybody else's story. Because I was a realtor.
Yeah.
I sold Tamika her house.
Yep.
However, we did date before she bought the house.
Hmm.
We did.
We did, but I'm just saying that was a very close window.
Yeah, it was
Like,
very close. By.
when we met, okay, so we met also online, also via Yahoo Personals. And I think maybe a week or 2 after we met on Yahoo Personals, it immediately turned into Match. So that's right at the time when it switched over, but we met on Yahoo Personals. At the time, I had a membership. And so he, you can check and see who viewed you and whatnot. And he had viewed me, but he didn't send me a message. So I checked his profile. And I was like, "Oh, okay, he's pretty cool." So I sent him a message back and saying, "Hey, I saw you saw my, could you let me tell this? I saw that you checked out my profile. Here's my Yahoo handle," because this is when we used to chat on Yahoo. That's my Yahoo handle if you want to chat outside of because I assume he ain't paid for the service. Is what I'm trying to say. Okay? I assume he ain't paid for the service. I did. So I was like, my little funky handle if you want to chit chat. So soon after I did that, he did. I did end up with a message from him via Yahoo chatting outside of the tool, and we talked for about 2 weeks as well. And yeah, and then we met in person after about 2 weeks. He was frying fish, the Zetas at Southern Poly. He was towel on him, apron, frying fish. And he kept asking me about coming to this event. And he was like, so you coming to the event, right? And I wasn't really sold on whether or not I was going or not, but I was like, oh, I'll go. So I was like, yeah. So I get there, like I said, apron, flour, frying fish. And we chit chat, and then we just kind of kept on chit chatting. That's pretty much how it went down.
That's your story.
That is the story.
And you sticking to it?
Absolutely.
So, she wanted a brother.
Okay, that's not how we're gonna start this. So that's not how we're gonna start this out.
Saw me on Yahoo Personals, and she was like, yep, let me send him a message. I want to talk to him. We talked, and we chatted, and yeah, she was like, oh, maybe I might come, but she did show up, and she was beautiful. And my thing is, this is what I do. I cook. People know I cook, and you need to see me in my element. And if you're not happy with me in my element, it ain't gonna work. Now, she got some fish, and she enjoyed that fish, and I had her ever since. You know, you got that fish hook. I put the fish hook in her, she was gone. And from that day, we were pretty much together continuously. Yeah.
He was always in the neighborhood, and at this time, we lived on separate sides of town. I was on the north side, he was on the south side. And so he was just always conveniently, I would get a call, hey, I'm on your side of town, let's meet up for such and such. You live nowhere near me.
Metro Broker's main office is in Sandy Springs.
He's selling
Your house.
That's right, he's selling a house every day.
Right.
That's what it is. That's why he had the program every day.
If you're not working on it, it ain't gonna happen. So we gotta go. All right. So yeah, we've been together ever since.
Yeah. So that was our story. Yeah, those are some great stories and a lot of parallels. And I think so this is the next question, which is a good one, because of based on all of our stories and how we all met. Did you have a preconceived notion or an idea of how you thought you would meet your person? Like did you have an idea? And probably the guys on this call will be like, yeah, it's probably women who thought about this. No, y'all be thinking too. So this is for both of you. Do you have some sort of idea of how that meeting would occur? Did you think you would meet some stranger on an airplane? You thought you'd meet them in church? Like how did you think that would go? And then compared to how it really did happen. And any of you can jump in on that one. I'm not even gonna.
I'm gonna actually start with that.
Okay.
And I'm gonna start because one, I knew I was gonna meet someone online. Because when I worked in retail, I was a manager with Best Buy. I knew that one, I was there for 14 hours out the day. I wasn't clubbing, I wasn't doing all that. So I knew I wasn't gonna date a customer, which limited my pool of who I could date and when I had time to even meet someone. Then when I started doing real estate, I kind of broke my rule and actually started feeling one of my clients. But I feel that online dating is a safe way to meet someone, especially back early 2000s. You don't give any more information than you want to give. You control the narrative. If you chat online for a little bit, then you can give your phone number out and then go from there. Versus, you meet someone face to face. Let me get your number, and you give them a fake number or reluctantly give it to them and don't answer the calls.
And hope they don't call it while you're standing there, so they know that it's wrong, and then they get mad and want to.
Absolutely. But yeah, I knew that's the way I was going to have to happen, because that was just the only medium that I was available for to meet someone.
And that's funny because I was one of those people who's absolutely against online dating. I had other friends that had done it before me, and I was like, that's crazy and it's creepy. And then I ended up moving here, and I wanted to expand my pool of meeting people. Like it wasn't, I didn't use online dating as my only pool. And I was involved in a lot of things outside of kind of like work and what have you. So it was kind of my way of building a network of meeting people anyway. So I was like, well, I am in a new city. I can just add this as, you know, an additional avenue of people, a way of meeting people. So
It was creepy, but you had a paid account to hit me up.
okay, so who wants to, we're gonna move right along.
I was kind of like you, Tamika, that I didn't thought I was going to meet the love of my life, like, you know, online and being long distance, because we were long distance for 3 years. Like he went to Costa Rica, I came, you know.
Yeah.
So I always was that person that said, oh, I will never be in a relationship, long distance relationship, because I cannot trust or whatever.
Mhm.
But then I forgot about it, I guess, once, you know, once I started. So yeah, it was definitely not how I expected.
Yeah.
You speak to that?
No, not at all. I mean, just being so young, you know, proposing at like 26, proposing at 26. You know, I'm in a, you know, organizations with young guys that's their time. You know, they're going out, they're meeting people, they're going into those organizations and things like that, and really just socializing. They've done the work in their undergrad, they've done their masters, and now they're trying to have fun, growing their careers. But, you know, it's, for me, I knew a couple things just off the bat. Like, one thing I didn't know is I was going to find my wife in Costa Rica. And like she was saying, just like long distance phone cards before WhatsApp and all this other stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Phone cards from the bodega down the street, right?
Yes.
But one thing I knew was that after, you know, just a series of relationships I knew that I just didn't want. I just knew one thing, that I wanted a full family, you know, coming from a single parent home. And then also I knew when I found the one, I didn't want that one to get away. And so
smart. So
yeah,
smart.
I mean, it's always like a roll of the dice, right? You never know who you're going to meet, but if you know, what's the old saying? One in the hand is worth two in the bush. So it's like, you know, I found a great person here, and I was just like, okay, let's ride this out and see how this works out. And there were some other factors and variables that I used to make my final selection, but if we may talk.
We're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about it.
But yeah, just saying all that just to say that, you know, going there, I wanted to have fun. I wanted to meet people. And I had a plan B in the event that, you know, it just didn't work out. You know, I had my buddies. We had a pocket full of cash. We knew the language. Yes, you did. Absolutely.
Oh, my goodness.
Hilarious. We'll talk about that. We'll get back to that. Who's next?
So when LaTanya and I met, I was divorced 4 years. And I felt like at the time before I met her, I had tried my one time at marriage, it didn't work, and that was it. So when she and I met, in my mind and the way I grew up and was raised, it's like, you know, you know, marriage is just not for you, you know, and that's too why I wasn't really looking for love when I met her, but the Holy Spirit, like I said, when we met in person, and that this voice was like, this is your wife. And I was like, no, my wife left me 4 years ago because I had been divorced. And I just, in my mind, I was just like, you know, I'm not going down that road again. But the more and more we spent time together, the more and more she kept pushing me away. and telling me keep it professional and you know, date other people. I'm like, it's just something about her, and I was just drawn to her. When we closed the deal on the house and we started to date more and more, I was like, yeah, this is it. This is it for me. You know, she's the one. So.
So I guess I'm kind of like you, Tamika. I was a little leery of the online dating thing. And I always honestly thought that I would meet my spouse like at church, because I come from a family of ministers and we was always in church. So I just
I think
figured,
all the church girls had that kind of idea of how
yeah,
it would
I just
happen.
figured I'd meet him at church. And then I had a coworker that I used to work with at this real estate company, and she convinced me to try online dating, and I did, and the rest is history.
Nice. Really good. Danny, you mentioned something about being divorced and kind of being raised. If you're one of those people who have been raised in church, especially if it's Pentecostal along that lines, you're taught like you're one and done.
That's it.
Okay?
Yeah.
If it don't work out and they don't die, like you're one and done.
Yeah.
You're just gonna have to stay.
Yeah. And that was
it,
the mindset
you know?
I had. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that is hard oftentimes to kind of get out of, like, we're raised. I'm thankful for my foundation. Let me just say that. I think
Yeah.
I am absolutely thankful for it. And one of the things I will always say that my mom has taught me, and I've kind of held on as a saying, that you learn to eat the meat and spit out the bone. I think my parents, I learned a lot about church and about faith and about religion. And I think it was at the point when I actually became an adult when I really started to understand relationship and how to rightly divide, to understand the word of God and to talk to him and let him talk to me and to listen. And so there were some things that I had to kind of unload that were really just religion,
Oh yeah.
not necessarily scriptural. It was preference,
Yeah.
not what he really had for me. So it's that's a good point to point out there, because I'm pretty sure there are people that'll be watching, and I'm not here to tell people whichever way to go.
Yeah.
You have a relationship with Christ and you let him guide and lead and direct you in your heart. That's what I will say on that. Thank you for sharing that.
Mhm.
So Michael and Cashmere, was that expectation how you met? Was it how you thought it was going to happen, or it was totally not what you thought it was going to be?
No, sis, no. When we officially met, we met in class, in the first class in the morning. So it was early. And I was feeling myself when I got there. So I didn't really think that, we would meet, or I would meet the one so soon. I just got to school, so it's like, we're about to live this life. And to get in there, and then, our first interaction, like we kind of mentioned earlier, wasn't the best. We were kind of butting heads a little bit. The first thing I said to him, because he was looking at me, I'm like, "What are you looking at?" He just laughs at me and turns around. He didn't even say anything else. And so that kind of started. I'm like, "Oh, who do you think?"
The little banter going back and forth. It gets a little cute though after a while.
It did, people, knew that we just didn't care about each other, and we would talk smack in front of everybody. And and then somewhere along the way, it turned into, "What you doing? What are you doing later?" We just started talking and then hiding it from everybody else. And finally, we're just like, "Oh, forget everyone else. We're going to be us." So I didn't think that, I would meet the one like that. But, you go through so many different things in life, and you realize that, the Lord, he puts people there right on time when they're supposed to be there.
Yeah.
That was that for me.
Absolutely.
That's
Do you agree with that?
Okay. Yeah, like she said, I think like Patrick was saying as well, like for us to meet in college, I was same thing. I was like, I'm about to go through college. I'm about to have a hard heart. I'm not going to fall in love with nobody. I'm just going to go straight through. And it was like, okay, day one, hey, how you doing? And but I just didn't expect it to happen that soon. And we laugh about it now because I told her like years later after we got married, I was like, there was a point where I remember saying, man, I was like, Lord, if you can do anything, get me with Cashmere, whatever it takes. And so now when we get into it, I'm like, that's what I asked him.
Oh, don't turn it down. I'm talking about, well, God, you gave me this woman.
You gave me too.
It's your fault. No.
That's right. So I didn't expect, I always thought I was like, I'm gonna get out of college. I'm gonna, do the single thing. I'm gonna do what I see on TV. So, I grew up single parent home and things like that. I was like, what I saw on TV, I was like, that's what's gonna happen. That's how it works.
Mm-hmm.
So I enjoy it though, because I see the effect that it had on my life of meeting the love of my life so early and things like that. It really put me in a different atmosphere, and it lined up with things that I knew I wanted to be a family man, a husband. Those are things I always wanted. So it just opened for me even more.
Absolutely. I think there are points in our lives that you continue along in your relationship. You say, oh, like this is good right here. Like I needed this. This is what I needed to get me to, like, I couldn't imagine me not getting this or getting this from someone else. Like it's because of this partnership that we have that I know we're here and we're purposed to do X, Y, and Z. There are moments that kind of happen like that for me. And I look for those moments as well. I'm always seeking for those things. I'm looking for the best and the good in our relationship. So it kind of reminds me, because, sometimes some days are easier than others. And so on the not so easy days, it's good to have a reminder when you can fill up on all those things that kind of remind you along the way, like, yeah, this is why we're together and we're purposed to be together. And this is why it helps. It absolutely helps. Now, most of us on here met online. Now, I don't know about your parents. My parents are very old school. My mother was Pentecostal, my dad is Baptist. Either way, church all the time. Okay? So I did not tell my parents how I met Travis until after we were married. They knew how we met, like our first face-to-face interaction. So that's what they got. Now, granted, I don't think that's a lie, but it is. I'm sorry, Lord forgive me. But they know now. They know now. So that was something that was, I think if they know after I met, what you gonna do? Like, we're married at this point. Like, it's not much more
I'm
you
not
can
a
say.
killer.
I know. So I'm pretty sure if I told them before, it would have been like, oh gosh, it wouldn't have been good. So how did you all deal with that? Those of you who did date online and meet online, how did you tell your your parents about the person that you were like, yeah, this is getting serious? Like, how did that go?
For me,
Did you tell them you met online?
Yep. I just told them.
You have some forward-thinking parents. I'm proud of that. Impressed.
They didn't like it.
How did it go?
How did it go?
No, my mom didn't like it. My dad's kind of, but my mom was like, oh my gosh, you got to be careful. And I don't know. And we got to pray. And so, yeah. But after she met him, that kind of went out the window. So
that's good.
It worked out.
Good.
Yeah, my parents were the same too, old fashioned. And it's funny, I remember the story of when I was staying with my cousin, and my baby brother was visiting, and I told him I met her online, and she came by the house, and they saw her, and they were going online too, like they were like, hey, sign me up.
I had a cousin that worked at the DMV. Sent me a copy of his doggone driver's license. She was like, I told her about him, and she was like, what's his name? What's wrong? And she sent me she was like, is this him? I was like, yes. Wow. Got his ticket. Anything on the record that you can tell me? Now, granted, I ain't gonna give up her name because that was probably illegal.
Spring break 99, boy.
I had some detectives on the case that I mentioned online and mentioned him. And the thing was, I was actively dating when I met Travis. So I was online. So there were a couple people I was talking to. That's it. Let me make sure. That's it. A couple people I was talking to, we were dating. And so when he came along, he just kind of stuck. It was effortless. And so he made the decision really early and told me flat out like his position and what he felt. He was like, I'm closing my Yahoo personal account. And he just sat there waiting for a response, like, so what you gonna do? And I was like, well, okay, I guess we can try it. So I was like, so I guess we go together now, right? So I didn't even know how this works. So I figured, okay, we're exclusive. So I was only talking to him at that point. If anybody else called, because I wasn't calling other people and be like, don't talk to me no more because I'm talking. Like if they happened to call, I'd be like, yeah, I am kind of seeing someone and we're seeing how this goes kind of thing. And so
No kind of.
so it just kept going. Did have one person that did check in like 2 weeks later and was like, y'all still dating or something? And I was like, and he was like, okay. And then I didn't hear from him anymore. But yeah.
You shut it down.
Hey, let me tell you. So we were pretty much, from the day we met in person, we were pretty much inseparable for months on end. I think the first time that we weren't together or saw each other, was it wedding that you went to?
Yeah. So it was I went home for my friend's wedding. He actually rode with me and I dropped him off to his mom's house, which I was nervous about because I was just like, I'm not trying to get out and meet your mom. I just started talking to you. I'm not really interested in meeting your mama, and end up meeting her. So she came to the door. He asked me to get out of the car, and I was like, "Hi, nice to meet you." It was a very brief meeting, but I was just kind of like, "Why you got me meet your mom? I just met you like 2 days ago." It wasn't 2 days ago, but I was just like,
and it turned out to be her homegirl. My mama loved her, and she loved my mom.
Yeah, that's my girl. That's my girl. Absolutely. So I want to know, how did you know that your person was the one? Like, what was it? Something that happened that said, you know what, this person, this is the one. I think this is it. I'm going to put that out there. Pat, your face looked like you want to answer.
Was that me?
I said Pat.
Oh, Pat.
Oh,
Okay.
oh, that's my third. Twitching the eye. Well, so like I said previously, I mean, it was crazy. So I didn't know what to expect. I got to Costa Rica first because the other guys came in a little bit later. I get to Costa Rica. It was the first time I'm getting there. We went at the airport. I didn't know what to expect because, of course, I flew to different international airports and all of them are different, right? Mm-hmm. Come into Houston, it's different from if I'm going into, Atlanta airport, Heathrow. Yeah. And so I get there and then, amongst all these crowds of people, people like, hey, you need a taxi,
Yeah.
Hey. It was just kind of like, I kind of saw her like in the distance. And then it's like a legit movie, man. Like, what is it?
You think slow-mo?
Yeah, it was slow-mo. I was like, what is going on? And like a little bit of firework action. And I'm not kidding. I was just like,
oh, wow.
What is going on? And so, yeah, that was my feeling. And then it just kind of just like regular mode, right? And I was just like, what was that? So, and I had a conversation with her and, and things like that first meeting, like you see each other, over, I guess, they didn't have like Skype then, did they? We didn't have like video chat or anything.
Yeah, we did have Skype. Like,
okay, so it was like some Skype. So you would see somebody over video, right? But when you first see somebody, it was just like, wow. And so that was like the first thing for me. I was like, maybe I'm like Twitter pated, right? Maybe something's happened to me, and maybe it's like this Costa Rican air. I don't know. But then after the time we had spent with each other, man, just kind of just who she was as a person and who her friends were and how she carried herself, and we were all out hanging out and partying and stuff like that. Like I was sat beside myself in the plane, and I'm just like, I think this is the one for me. And then like legitimately like, oh, this is the one. And I think it was crazy because I remember to this day, I get back home and my mom was in the basement doing laundry. I had to bring my laundry down and I said, hey mom, guess what? Did you have a good time? Blah, blah, blah. I said, you know what? I think I met the woman I'm going to marry. And I had never said that to her before. And so
stop her in her tracks.
Yeah, kind of going back to what you all were saying before about when you let them know. And she was just kind of like, oh, okay. all right. But she knew that I had never told her that before.
Mm-hmm.
So, I had something to prove to her and my grandmother, my aunt, women in my life at that time. So, yeah.
Cool. Good stuff.
Yeah. Indeed.
It was weird. That was like, it had never happened before. So I was like, oh, there's something special here.
Nice.
Yeah, and for me, it was not like when I saw him. Of course, I was like, wow, and he's super tall too. Like I knew he was tall, but it was that tall. And then it was more for me the interaction that we had afterwards, like how he treated me and how he talked to me and how he interact with my friends. Like that part got me like, oh, he's he's very different from all the other guys that I've dated. They're not even close. Like I told my friend, they're not even close to him. Like he's awesome. Like I like him, And then the L word came along.
Who said it first? Who said it first?
He said it first.
He did too. He did too.
Oh, I remember. He said it first, and I said it back, and it just, it just felt right. It just felt right. So, hey, it was meant to be. Yeah.
Nice. Good story.
I think.
Let Danny go.
Oh, no. I was just saying, just the communication and conversations, that did it for me. Like, we were sitting, we'd talk, and like, we just talk for hours and hours. Like she would talk and I would talk, but then, like the next day, she would kind of reiterate what I said, and ask conversations about how things were going. It was just a connection, it's like, with other people that I went out with, it's more conversation was kind of one-sided, but with us, it was kind of equal. And, there was a genuine care for us, for each other. I think that to me, that's kind of what did it for me, and it's like just genuine communication, conversation. And she was open to me, being a gentleman, open doors. I would go another day, so I could get my own door with other people, but she and my brothers and siblings would be like, oh man, you opening doors for us, you setting the bar high and all this and that. But it was just it was just natural and genuine communication and conversation. That's what did it.
I think it's pretty much the same for me. And I had my list, some of us women, we have our list.
Oh, the list.
He met most of the criteria on my list, and then he just seemed really genuine and old school and came from a great family, and it's just like what I had been looking for. So yeah.
Great. The time you brought up something about the list, I want to talk about that. I don't know if we'll do it today, but we might do it in another session. But that list, that deserves a session all by itself, the list. But Michael and Cashmere, how about you two?
I knew she was the one when we shared a soda and I drank out the straw, and because I don't share that, y'all don't share stuff. No, she. I knew
that means something though.
You can drink out for somebody. Yeah, I don't do that. No, I knew she was the one when things just started like lining up. You know what I mean? And when we hit a spiritual level, I was like, okay, this is different, and we're going to church together and things like that. And I started seeing like, this is something's different here. And then because she wanted to get baptized at the church that I grew up in. So that was like a motion.
Oh.
And my parent, when that happened, my parents was like, all right now.
You were in there. You were in there, Cashmere. You were in there.
Yeah, don't let it walk away. And then we have been through a very traumatic a car accident. And it was something about that too that just kind of really jolted me and made me put life in perspective. When, life is snatched away from you, you start to look at things, no matter, like I think someone mentioned, I was like 24 when I proposed. So, but I knew then, like, I don't have time to play around. Like, I know this is what I want. I know this is where I'm going to go. This is where I want to be. So it was a combination of a lot of things within like a very short period of time that really wrapped it up for me.
Yeah.
I would say it's probably the same for me too. Things just started to align. You know, we grew up together, and you learn about each other and things of that nature, and you become family. And I mean, he stood up to dad, so you know when he can come into the house and be family.
Standing up?
Family. My dad, he has all girls, so he's very.
Oh yeah, that's a tough one to break.
That's a tough one, and he was right on in there and comfortable and never second guessing it. Honestly, it was probably like our family knew it before we knew it, so it was real natural. And then like Michael said, we had gotten a really bad car accident and almost lost him. And that put things into perspective for me because it was just like, I won't let this pass. I've got a second chance, an opportunity. Like if he asks me, oh, I'm going to say yes. Like,
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I'm gonna let you answer that. And I do want you guys to share at some point that testimony about the car accident. We're gonna weave that into one of these sessions at some point, but I would love for you guys to share that as well. Because that was, that's a good one. That's a good one. God is good.
So
Yes.
I knew Tamika was the one when, you know what? I think Pat, you might have been there. It was actually in the backyard of my mom's house. Like she was just interacting with my family.
I mean, the first time I was there, it was that like reunion.
Yeah, a little reunion kind of thing. And it was my mom. I think Ricardo was there. I think you were there, Pat. You know, just he fit. And my uncle Solomon, he's a character. But Uncle Solomon he's that wise old man.
The wisest.
Yeah.
And he and his wife have been married easily 50 plus years.
Yeah.
Has to be.
Now, nephew, what you gonna do? That you a good one now. I said,
You called me a good one. I just said you. So this is one.
yeah.
This is my first time meeting everybody at this function. And I was like, what a way to kind of just, y'all are really just throwing me out here. I met everybody at one time.
And the thing about it is, like, my family crazy. My family's crazy, and she fit right on in with the crazy.
It's a level of dysfunction. We all have experienced it. We all know we have a little dysfunction.
Stop being nice. It's not dysfunction. It's crazy. And just call it what it is. My family crazy. My brother crazy. My sister crazy. My mama was crazy. My cousin Dottie, she definitely crazy. But everyone fit, you know.
Yeah.
Everyone told a little bit of a story about this, told a little story about that. Hey, how are y'all doing? And then when I was able to just leave her with them,
Oh yeah.
and everything is fine, and I come back and I don't have nobody pulling me to the side.
Yeah.
You know, I'm going to run errands and do whatever I need to do. She's there, and she's good. That's family.
Yeah.
And
That was the one. That's when you knew.
that's when I knew.
That's real.
That was early though.
It was like, well, I prayed for you before we met.
Tell more.
So,
Right now.
so back when I was dating, and I went on some bad online dates, bad. And I just said, Lord, I need a Christian woman who is going to want to build with me. I may not have a lot, but some good things are going to come from this. I need her tall, and it's great. She doesn't know this. I said I need tall and left-handed. I prayed specifically for left-handed.
I didn't know that was left-handed.
Because I'll tell you how it came about. One of my old friends, Chaka Mason, said, Travis, man, if you Go find you a tall woman, y'all have kids, and she left-handed. Can you imagine a 6'9" power forward that's left-handed? I'm telling you. Or picture. I mean, a six, like I'm 6'6". She's tall. You get you a 6'6", 6'7" left-handed pitcher. They're going to the major leagues. We're not gonna have to work no more ever. So I actually prayed specifically for that, and I was like, wow. When I found out you were left-handed, I played it chill. I was like, all right, you got to be specific because
Yeah. You gotta be.
So yeah.
Which is also why a conversation for the list thing about being specific. I think that's part of the thing too, but sometimes it can be unrealistic. So back to the question, how I knew, it was a series of different things that happened along the way that kind of reinforced that this was the one. There was one period, there are two that stand out in my mind. One was, we had gone on a date or something. I had gotten back to my apartment. And I have this thing where I lived alone. So I would audibly walk around talking to God. I'd be praying out loud essentially. I probably came home, said something like, I just came back from this date with Travis. I enjoyed myself, just having regular conversations with somebody there, right? And so the things that I started praying to God about on that particular day, as I'm talking to God about the date we had just had, Travis starts texting me. He started texting me some of the same things I was saying to God I wanted. And I think you might have said something about like, I really enjoyed our time together, and something like, I see us building a life together. And something like he was going along the lines of things that I had been, I'm sitting here like talking to God about, and I'm like, I'm talking to you. He's texting me. Is he in here? And I thought I left him, at the restaurant. Is he in here? That was one thing. And then the second, which a lot of times it comes out of the tough times in our lives when, you kind of sometimes realize, just like you were sharing, Cashmere, about that accident, it's just like, oh yeah, if he asks, I most definitely are. Mm-hmm. So this happened right at, we were early in dating, maybe 6 months in or something like that. Mm-hmm. And I lost my job. And I had purchased the house like 6 months prior. Like, yeah, pretty much at the time that we met like in April. I purchased like in June, and then got laid off like January or something like that. And so, being a Christian, you try to stand. Now you're gonna really, all them songs you prayed, you sang, you talked about faith and standing on the promises of God. Mm-hmm. You're gonna have to do those in action now. So there were days I felt schizophrenic, because some days I was standing on the promises, and the other days I was like in the fetal position, like, Lord, I'm about to lose it all. I ain't gonna have no house, I ain't gonna have no car. What am I gonna do? That sort of thing. But I remembered a while ago, some time ago, maybe at a time when I had my own list, when I said that, God, I wanted somebody who could pray for me when I couldn't pray for myself. And on one particular day, I was here at the house. Travis came over. And I just wasn't in a good place. I was just really still feeling pretty bad about not finding work and still being somewhat concerned. I was a little despondent, not really saying nothing. And all I remember, I don't remember if he said anything or if I even responded. If he had asked me a question, I don't recall. Next thing you know, I just felt someone leaning over me. And to this day, I don't know what you were doing, but he positioned his body over. I was sitting upright in a chair, just kind of like sad, just looking sad. He positioned his body somewhat over me. I couldn't see it. I just saw him, and he started praying for me. And in that moment, was brought back to my remembrance, because I was feeling really low at that point, and I couldn't pray for myself in that moment. And it brought back to my remembrance that I prayed for someone who would pray for me when I couldn't pray for myself. And so those were the two pivotal moments that happened in our dating life that I was just like, yeah, we just gonna go ahead and seal this deal here. So that was I think how I knew like you were my person.
And she goes back to mentioning that she met my mom briefly during that one little trip. My mom loved this young lady well before we got married. Well before we got married. She knew of Tamika being laid off in the situation. And mom said, when after you got in your job, she said, well, I'm glad it got worked out, but I wasn't gonna let y'all lose that house. Oh, she said, y'all, I wasn't living here. But mom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was special. That was really special. Okay. Well, I've enjoyed this conversation. And what I'd like to do to close this up and wrap this up, because we have people that are watching, and I want to know, what advice would you give to others who are looking for or desiring their one? What is your 1 or 2 liner of advice that you would give them? And I'm not even going to call you. I'm not going to call on anyone. I'm just going to let you just go ahead and put that out there. And if you know, you can go ahead and jump in if you have a response.
Prayer. Right. Be specific in what it is that you want. Mature enough to look at yourself and know where your faults are and things that didn't work out previously. But pray about who it is that you want, that you find a particular one. Yeah.
And I'll piggyback on that. Prayer is always essential and key. Something else, be okay with you.
Yeah.
Don't think that you have to be with someone or someone else defines you or gives you value. Be okay with you. Be okay with, your life, what you're doing, your own aspirations and your own goals. Be okay with you. And when you are about your business of being okay with you, you kind of along the way end up meeting people who are also probably going the same direction. Prayer is always key, but be okay with you, is what I would say.
I will also add that.
Oh, sorry.
I will also add to be open to other ways to meet people, because love works in mysterious ways, like God working mysterious way. You never know. So be open and go with the flow.
Yeah.
Latanya, you were going.
I was gonna say something similar, just to be open to the Holy Spirit, be open to what you think you may have in your head. It may be he or she may be totally different. So just be open and listen to the voice of God.
Yeah. And I would add to what Latanya said, what Soraya said, as well as Travis and Mika. The prayer is key, and then being yourself, but then also praying for somebody that brings the best out of you, that wants you to be the best version of who you are. They don't want you to be somebody else, but just the best version of who you are and who God made you to be.
Absolutely.
I'll jump in real quick and say that something we tell a lot of people are you ready to be what you think you want? Meaning, are you ready to be a partner? Are you ready to sacrifice? Are you ready to give more than you want that thing of marriage? Because a lot of folks will say, I want to be married. And then when you're like, well, that comes with sacrifice, or that comes with giving up some of the things, not giving it up, but changing some, routines of your life. I ain't trying to do that, So are you ready for what you want? And don't be surprised when it looks you in the face.
Okay, I'm gonna need you to send me your cash out, because I'm gonna send you an offering on that one, because that one was good. That's a good point. That is absolutely a good point. I think people have an idea of marriage not knowing what it really is. We had that conversation this past weekend and another conversation, another recording. But yes, absolutely. I think that is very important to understand what that looks like. And hopefully with this series and having married couples here to kind of talk about their journey, to kind of give some insight, realistic, real talk about what it is like, I hope could be helpful. I think I didn't necessarily, I was first of my immediate friends that got married, so I didn't have anyone that I could really glean from or get some sort of like, give me a heads up. And so I think I prepared as much as I could, but being married really is an on-the-job training kind of situation, which is important for you to pray. Why it's most important for you to pray. So when you're doing this on-the-job training, when, you know, things may not go as you would expect, you can lean back to, I know what God told me. And so, yeah, that was a good one. Oh, I need to make a note of that because I want to come back to that in a minute discussion.
And don't stop
Yes,
praying.
we have to.
A lot of us are saying, you know, and we agree, you know, pray, but don't stop, because you know, you'll meet that person like, Lord, you did it, and then he like, this was supposed to prepare you for something, and
Yes.
you gotta keep talking to me. So
Gotta keep talking.
you gotta keep praying in the process. So that's do what Travis did. Travis prayed. He was specific. He said tall and left-handed. Then when he was like, all right, look, I'm turning this account off. I'm not gonna tell you you're gonna meet my mama, but you about to meet my mama. do that once you get it. So.
If she was right-handed, it was a
Oh
no-go.
my goodness. Whatever. You and I both know that is not the case. One of the things not on your list.
The Lord brought me a left-handed woman.
That's right.
I wanted to say something about that, and what Michael was saying was just on point, and and it's part of my second part of this. First thing is, like me, I've just the way that I grew up, you know, in the church, single parent home. I always tried to collect these male mentors, these individuals who I wanted to be like, and from that practice as early on, and like in my early years, I always look to other people for advice, right? Mm-hmm. You know, if you look at my career, like I worked for a guy who grew up in the same town, went to the same church, with the same school. You know, what does it take to be successful, right? And I did all of that, you know, for the free, right? Working, doing meetings, all that for free, because I wanted to learn. And I looked at individuals who were living a certain lifestyle. Do I want to live that lifestyle? Mm-hmm. And I learned very quickly, you know, I don't want this. You know, you have these great things, but I know that that's not for me. And so I would tell people just to ask wise counsel, people who you feel, you know, whose life you want to emulate, whose life you think is the best, right? Not something on Hollywood, just real life people, right? That's number one. And then number two, kind of going off Michael's point, you got to be courageous enough. You have to be disciplined enough to say, you know what, this is what I want. This is what I prayed for. I have to execute on this, because I have seen more brothers, and I don't say the word knuckleheads, mess up really good things because they were trying to do two different things. And they ended up, you know, losing the one, you know? So I would say those two things: seek wise counsel, and always, and also have the discipline, the courage to stick with it, stick it out. Especially now in the days of, you know, instant gratification.
Yeah. That microwave love. That microwave love.
Right?
That microwave love.
Yes. Well, I think this was a.
Sister Cashmere, did you want to?
Oh, yeah. Sister Cashmere, you heard that?
I know. Touched my soul. I think everyone kind of touched on it, how I would kind of wrap it up. You really have to stay open. You have to stay prayerful. You have to be honest with yourself about who you are. Love yourself first, because if you can't love yourself, how are you, going to love anyone else? So I think that would be the best advice I could give.
This is good. This is all good stuff.
Yes.
I enjoyed this conversation with each and every single one of you all. Thank you so much. I call you my co-host. Thank you so much for joining and being a part of this. And also to those who are watching, thank you again for watching this week's session on how we met, how it all began, and our love stories. So make sure that you join us next Thursday, where we will be talking about our relationship needs. I have needs. Relationship needs, that is. So hopefully you will meet us back here next Thursday, and we will continue the conversation. Thanks, everybody. Have a good night.
Have a good night.